Welcome to the official Cinefied Podcast, the show where we pick apart a new release every week. This week's pick is surprisingly not one that hit the silver screen. When we found out that our only theatrical choices were The Rock's new film or Taylor Swift talking about her new album for 90 minutes, we made a bold choice of our own and decided to review the latest entry in the popular horror anthology franchise, VHS. The new film, titled VHS Halloween, is the 8th installment in the franchise and features shorts from acclaimed directors such as Alex Ross Perry and Paco Plaza. The synopsis is as follows. A collection of Halloween-themed videotapes unleashes a series of twisted, blood-soaked tales turning trick-or-treat into a struggle for survival. Our very own John Odette reviewed it, and this is a excerpt from his review. The boundaries of where horror should and can go are pushed in an evenly toned set of Halloween-themed tales. The series just gets better and better, with each story exploring core holiday tropes such as haunted houses and candy bowls within their brief runtimes. And as I just mentioned, John wrote the review. He is one of 4 panelists on today's show, the other ones being obviously myself. Then we have Joe here. What's up, Joe?
Hey, great to have you here, Dem. Great to be here with you, Dempsey.
No, of course. It's a pleasure to have you, man. And Josh, how are you?
Hey, great intro.
Thank you. We have to throw some shade Taylor's way. No, I'm kidding. Big fan. Don't cancel me, Taylor. Don't cancel me. No.
She's behind you right now.
That would actually probably be a really good VHS short if the producers are listening for whatever reason. But we're gonna dive right into the movie and the movies within the movie. But before we do, we know how John feels, but I want to ask everybody else what they thought about the movie. We're gonna do a very brief thought about the film from everybody, and then at the end we're gonna revisit it to see if our discussion changed anybody's mind. So we know John loved it, as I mentioned before. Joe, what did you think?
Yeah, I give it a full popcorn rating as well. It was a grab bag of fun size tricks and treats that are full of old school gross out horror movie gore and plenty of shrieks and screaming.
And Josh, what did you think?
It's a maybe for me. I thought it was a real mixed bag. I like the first 2. I like the recurring Diet Phantasma skits. But I thought some of those were kind of weak and overstayed their welcome. It was fine.
I'm like, if there's a middle ground between maybe and good, I enjoyed it. It was by no means the worst in the franchise. I think that will always belong to VHS Viral unless they manage to outdo themselves in that regard. I really liked the last one that came out last year. But I felt like this was just a little bit of a step down. But it had some, I think, of the scariest and more terrifying scenes and stories that we haven't seen in quite some time, which, of course, we will discuss later on. So that's where I'm at. But let's dive into the movie. Let's talk about our, I guess, best or favorite shorts of the film, if any. And I'm going to kick it off with my main man, John, who knows this film inside and out. John, talk to me about what you particularly liked about this movie.
So, thank you, Dempsey. So first of all, I like this franchise. This franchise is very interesting because it provides many new and upcoming voices in the genre to put their word out and see what they're made of a little bit in these little short vignettes. And like I like VHS Beyond, which is the previous installment, very well. It's one of my more favorite installments that they've made. And VHS Halloween, I like this one a whole lot because, one, I'm a sucker for the season, the Halloween, and I wrote in my review, like I felt like it took them a long time, this franchise did, to get to the Halloween part. And there's been other anthology series. I threw out Trick or Treat in there, which is a classic, but that's been about 20 years removed from Trick or Treat, this film. And I think that if you look at every story, there's a part of each story in the VHS Halloween film that has some sort of unique universal appeal. The very first story talks about like growing up and being facing responsibility as adults. And to the last story, which is my favorite one with the haunted house, about children growing up and that rift that comes between a teenager and their parents. I felt that one because I have an almost 16-year-old. And so, a lot of these universal motifs are kind of modeled on all these different shorts. And under, in the backdrop of a haunted house, or, even the middle story with the couple that want to get married, but she's not really committed to him, so she wants to break it off, but she can't. She doesn't have the guts to tell him just quite yet until it's too late. And I think that opens up the doors for people being able to kind of immerse themselves into these stories. So, but my favorite, to answer the question, long story short, is definitely the last one, because I think this story and the story before with the with the video rental store, or the costume rental store, the titles are escaping me right now. Actually, I think Terrifier 3 up the ante with horror films and the proximity of danger it gives to kids, and how no one is safe, even not even children, because it used to be like you killed anyone you want, but like pets and kids were off limits. Well, Terrifier 3 blew the doors off, if you will, and VHS Halloween, though I'm pretty sure it was in production well before Terrifier 3 came out. It seems to be like this thing where no one is safe, and I think that's interesting and entertaining only because you can't be too confident on who's going to survive and who's not, because everyone is fair game.
Yes. All right. Couple of side notes. This film was announced, I think, either the weekend after the last movie came out last October, VHS Beyond. After VHS Beyond, they announced that they were working on a brand new movie, but I don't think it was released. The theme, at least, wasn't released until this past July. So yeah, it was well in production way before Terrifier 3 came out, and we saw how gruesome that movie is. And just for our listeners, because we have already kind of name dropped some of the shorts, like every other VHS film, this one has a framed narrative, where it's like a short film broken up even into shorter sections that we pop in and out of throughout the film. That one here is called Diet Phantasma. Then the first full short film is called Coochie Coochie Coo, followed by a Spanish film, Supra Sic Infra, which translate to as above so below. Then we have Fun Size, which is the short that John just talked about there, involving the candy bowl. Then we have Kid Print, and the final one, which he said that he liked, is Home Haunt. And if you guys want me to bring up the directors, we can talk about them as it goes on. But I just wanted to familiarize our fans with, when we say, the first one, the second one, the third one, or the last one, just so that they know what we're talking about. I'm sure we will break them down more as we go. Joe, what was your favorite short?
Favorite one for me actually was that Spanish one, the Ut Supra Sic Infra. I really enjoyed how the director took the established found footage horror tropes and really upped the ante with production values. So not only did you get something that went beyond the typical shaky cam, but then he coupled that with an entirely creepy story about possession and murder. The inverse then, my least favorite actually was Fun Size. I thought that short was more ridiculous and comedic than it was horror, and even the comedy I thought fell short. Where with Diet Phantasm, there definitely was a camp vibe to it. Definitely felt like the filmmakers were doing a fun homage to The Reanimator and some of those other horror movies from the 80s. So it kept, the camp and the horror in line with each other. But Fun Size, I thought, just went for the jokes, and it really went for the easy out on some of those jokes. But in talking about other anthology films, I did want to mention Tales of Halloween that came out probably almost 10 years ago. And that was really a mixed bag. Some of the films in there really were fun and inventive and creepy, and then other ones were a little forgettable. But for people that are looking for something different to watch this Halloween season, I would like to throw that one out as a recommendation.
Thank you for that. And I just, before we get to Josh's opinion, I just want to point out you praised the Spanish film, also happened to be one of my favorites. But the guy who directed it is also the director of the well-known film Wreck, which was remade into Quarantine. So this guy's essentially a pioneer of the found footage genre, at least in the 21st century. So it's kind of interesting that you point out how he takes advantage of the tropes. And I agree too that he does kind of use them to, I guess, his advantage.
Absolutely.
But he also flips them on his head, like the pro that he is. But yeah,
and in that short, literally flips it on the head.
Yes, it does. Josh, what was your favorite one?
I agree with Joe. The Ut Supra Sic Infra was my favorite. I thought it was the best made, best acted, the production values. It was the most different. I was really impressed by that. Coochie Coochie Coo I liked too, but I felt it overstayed its welcome a little bit. I thought it was really cool. I thought going into the house was really creepy, following these two girls. Really atmospheric. Some of the visuals were spooky and upsetting as shit. But it kept going a little bit, even for a short. It kind of weared a little bit thin and went a little long for me. My least favorite was Kid Print. I fucking hated that one. That one made me, I don't know, that gave me the ick. I didn't like it at all. And the rest, I think, were forgettable for me.
Fair. We don't wreck anybody's opinion unless we all hate the movie. Then we wreck the movie, which we've done before. But no.
Yep.
As I mentioned before, I liked the Spanish film by Paco Plaza. I thought it was the best made one in my opinion. In terms of like concept, in terms of production value, I think the Diet Phantasma was the best one because that one really gave you the feel that this was something that you found, which is something that I worry, and I want to talk about this later, is that I worry it's the novelty that I feel the franchise is kind of losing. That like in the very first few films, we always had this direct framework where we're like, oh my God, there's somebody looking for VHS tapes, or they stumbled upon the VHS tapes, and that's why we're watching these films in the first place. And as much as I like the last one, I feel like this one was the closest to getting us back to that in a long time. But I think Kid Print wasn't my favorite, but I think it was the creepiest, the most unsettling, and the most upsetting I think I've seen in the franchise. I want to say ever, just because of that stomach turning ending. I have a feeling I know why Josh didn't like it though, and it's something that I had to confirm myself. Alex Ross Perry is the one who directed it, who he's done a lot of serious stuff, dramas, documentaries. I don't think he's a newcomer. Well, I think he's a newcomer to the genre. But I think his approach to it worked, but I think his lack of familiarity is why it kind of feels a little bit like an outsider, like with as opposed to some of the other films. Like I wasn't a fan of Fun Size. I thought it was the weakest movie. If anything, I feel like I know what it was trying to do. I felt like they were trying to establish like a mascot for the genre, for the franchise, because the franchise does not have one, and that creepy candy dude totally had it. But we don't get enough of him to really justify, seeing him again or, across other films. But yeah, I do think I forget which one of you guys said before that the comedy fell flat for that one. I mean, when you I already kind of knew the twist as soon as I saw the guy eating the phallus.
Yeah, 100%.
He's like, there's a lot of layers in here. I was like, okay.
Yeah. That was it. The humor, just that. Yeah, the humor was not clever. But Dempsey, with what you were saying about Kid Print, being the outliner, and Josh, I guess this goes with your feelings, is that that one had maybe the most realistic feel to it, where all of the other shorts definitely were demons and monsters and critters and things that go bump in the night. But Kid Print more or less dealt with a serial killer. And I also think, really when it comes to production values, that one also had the least amount of production values. I really thought the choppy, sloppy cam work was amplified in that short at a point where it almost reminded me a little bit of the French found footage film, As Above, So Below, where the team is running through the catacombs in France. Super cool story, but at times just completely unwatchable with the shaky cam. And I thought Kid Print really suffered as a result of similar camera styles.
Yep, very, very well said. I agree with, especially the editing, because it made it seem like the tape we were watching was taped over with like previous murders, right? Because we do get that intercutting of like the serial killer talking to some of the kids. But when you think about it, it doesn't really make sense how that's there in the first place. Especially if this is a tape that the guy is using to record himself around town, especially because some of the victims we see are actually the ones that are also being attacked in real time. So yeah, I agree. A little bit unsettling, but also kind of like narratively questionable. We all kind of jumped the gun on that one because I was going to ask what was our least favorite. That was the follow-up question. But let me ask you this: where does this one rank for all of you in comparison to some of the others? I've been watching this franchise. I was a teenager when the first one came out, and I remember watching it on VOD. I think it was the only way you could watch it at the time, like the day it came out, because I was just so excited. It had all these other, at the time, Ty West and, Radio Silence. They were very big names in the horror and exciting names in the horror space. And it was like, they all came together to do some sort of anthology. It was like, oh my God, it's so crazy. And I've just been a fan ever since. I mean, even VHS Viral sucked, as I will continue to say throughout this episode. But even then, I kind of had hoped that they would bring it back, and I was so excited when they did. So I would love to hear, let's start with John again. John, where does this fall in comparison to the others for you? I know you said you liked it, but not as much as the others. What's your favorite? Talk to me.
Well, I haven't watched all of them recently. I have seen them all, like in different parts of my life. I think I've seen VHS, the first one, probably at least 5 times at this point, and that had a good opening one. I think it's the one with the girl. They take her back to the hotel room, and she ends up being like some sort of succubus or something. That first VHS was really good. Viral, yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of. Like, it was fine. But Beyond from last year, and then 85 and 94 were, for me, some of the best ones. To place Halloween in that mix is a little bit of a challenge in this moment. But I would say that I would watch any of them again, including this one, pretty easily. Like, this easily makes the rotation for October, because it's a tight, like 90-minute watch. It has, it offers different types of feelings and experiences. So it's like, it's great. It's great, not great, but it's great. It's fine.
That's fair. That is fair. And then also, alternatively, for Joe and Josh, let me ask you guys: if you can't place or rank this movie at the current moment, if you're still sitting on it, is there maybe a short from previous films that you think is your favorite, or that you absolutely adore from this franchise, that maybe you would rank higher or rank this film lower against? Joe, let's hear from you.
Actually, I have only seen the first VHS. So yeah. So I've just got to say VHS and Halloween's got to be my pow 1-2. But Dempsey, or I'm sorry, John, you said about, having this, fit into a regular Halloween rotation. Absolutely. I could see me coming back to watching this one again as we get into other Halloweens.
Josh?
Awesome.
This is the only one that I've ever seen from this whole franchise.
Oh my God! You guys are virgin. Let me stop.
So to be fair, each entry has like a widespread of like, there's some sort of like tie-in kind of main theme, like Halloween. The first set of VHS films don't really. It's just like horror, and they kind of spread. They go across the gamut. But to answer your question, Dempsey, going back in time a little bit, I think as early as last year, VHS Beyond, the one with the parachute,
oh yeah, I think Live and Let Dive is what it's called.
Live and Let Dive, yeah, that was so fun. And I think it's one. I think it's a few back. It's one where they're on the boat. The friends go to the boat on the lake, and someone's from the shore is shooting at them and ends up killing most of them.
Oh, that one is really good. And then it comes back later. Oh, you guys don't even know what you're missing. I totally forgot about that one. That one's very good.
So I would say just as a recommendation to Joe and Josh, I would say even VHS Viral, each VHS has some gold in it, and they're not huge time commitments. Like they're all about 90 minutes. They're all very quick to get through. But I think each entry provides one or two really big standouts that you'll want to like hold on to and come back and revisit at some point if you don't want to see the whole thing again. So, and because like there's such a wide berth of different types of stories they share, it's easy to give recommendations to other horror fans for spooky season.
I had to look it up. This one's actually an hour 15, and for me, it didn't feel breezy at all. Because to me, the quality felt top heavy, and I really liked the first two. This was a little bit of a chore to get through some of the middle ones.
I wholly agree. I know exactly what you're talking about. Like whenever a new VHS movie comes out, I do have that like, oh, I gotta watch. Like I want to watch it, but then I'm like, oh man, I gotta get through like some parts that I may not like. Like I'll admit, I did love the last one, but Justin Long and his brother directed one, and it's very weird. Like the last one is for the first time in the franchise, like mostly sci-fi, like pretty much all sci-fi.
Huh.
And they direct a weird one. It has to do with dogs. I'm not going to spoil it here, but that was the one that I liked it for the most part. That was the one that I felt was the weakest. But here I was like, okay, for the most part, I really cared about them. But going back to what John said, like you guys have no idea what you're missing. The guy,
where are they?
They're all on Shudder. If I'm
they
not
are
mistaken.
Okay.
They should all be. Yeah. If they're not all on Shudder, I remember rewatching most of them last year, and like half of them were on Tubi, and the other half were on Shudder. So yeah.
VHS 85, sorry, just I had to jump in real quick.
Go for
so
it.
VHS 85, which preceded Beyond from last year, but also came after VHS 99. VHS 85 is the one I was talking about the friends on the lake, Dempsey.
Yes.
But all of those stories, I remember I liked every story front to back. And they were all very different.
Yes.
And so why I bring that up, why I say all that is like if you want to just tap your toes into the VHS franchise somewhere else, I would always say start with the very first one because it does set the tone pretty well, I think. And it kind of stands the test of time, even going back as far as 2012 when it came out. But VHS 85, plus I'm a sucker for the Stranger Things 80s aesthetic, like you wouldn't believe. So it doesn't like lean into that completely, but it is there. And if you dig that, you'll dig that entry at least. Just a recommendation from this guy.
No, I totally just like the films itself, how they pop around and have no kind of, I guess, sense of what is it called when they're? I'm sorry, I'm having a brain.
Continuity.
There we go. Thank you. They're coming in clutch. End of the day, continuity. There's no continuity across the films anyway. You could start with VHS Viral, and I promise you, it's only going to get better from there. Okay.
Amen.
So no, just to give you a sense of some of the people that have worked on these films, Gareth Evans, most known for the Raid film, wrote one, and then Timo Tjahjanto, who did Nobody 2 that just came out last month, and he's also done a couple of other really badass kung fu movies over the last decade. They wrote one together, and then Timo directed it. That's in part 2. Benson and Moorhead. I don't know if you guys are familiar with they're literally the guys that did the last season of Loki, and they're doing Daredevil now. And they've done a bunch of other really cool sci-fi and horror films like Singularity over the years. They have a short in VHS Viral, and it is by far the best one in it. Who else? I see Chloe Akuno here, who did that great horror film a few years ago called Watcher, Flying Lotus. Scott Derrickson and Cargill. They have a movie in VHS 85 that is actually a spin-off / sequel or like a prequel to The Black Phone. So yeah, there's like a lot of really interesting people who have attached their names to these projects. And I promise you, at the very least, you'll walk away loving at least one from each. So definitely, my only other gripe about this movie is the fact that it's called Halloween. and it's released the 1 year in like a decade that Halloween falls on a Friday. Like that would have been a slam dunk to release in theaters or even on Shudder. But I guess that they're banking on like the word of mouth building up until Halloween. But
Mike Flanagan did one of these too.
he wrote
last year.
one, and
Okay.
his wife
The
directed.
wife, yep, and VHS Beyond.
Cool.
But yeah, I think it came out when it did, at the top of October to kind of whet the appetite. And I think if people like a Joe or like a Josh who are just wading into for the first time, if they get a taste, they'll jump back into Shudder and check out the rest, and then they're off to the races. So, but I think
Shudder sponsoring this episode.
I was going to say we're going to take a quick ad read break.
yeah, I'm going to cut from both Shudder and Bloody Disgusting.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Just full transparency, guys.
Nice. Nice.
No, and honestly, like, this sounds like a terrible ad for Shudder, but it's honestly up with. I think I also mentioned Tubi already. Like, they like the ads. I mean, Shudder doesn't have ads right now. Knock on wood. Tubi does have some ads, but I think the collection of horror and indie horror is just amazing on both. Like I think if I was a teenager and I had just discovered Shudder now, I would probably not watch anything else because so many of these films, so many of these films that they have on there now, like were not accessible, or I could not find anywhere when I wanted to watch them as a teenager back in the day.
Yeah,
oh, totally. I wish there was a Shudder when I was a teenager.
And we lived right next to a VHS rental place, and they had a great like B horror section. So the curation of this really appealed to me, and this is something that I definitely dove into as a teenager. So yeah,
what a time to be alive.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Hey, Josh, what did you think of the Home Haunt short?
Which one was the Home Haunt?
That was one with the family that
Last
did
one.
the haunted house. Yeah, the last one.
Yeah, see, at that point, I was kind of trailing off a little bit. Like I said, it was an hour 15 total. I may or may not have allegedly taken a certain amount of edible before watching this, which I immediately texted Connor after Coochie Coochie Coo and said, "What the fuck am I looking at?" So by the end of it, it was a bit of a trailing off, and my popcorn was empty, the Coke was gone. I was ready for it to wrap, but it was okay. The last one was okay to me.
Because John, that was your favorite then, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But again, and I think I mentioned this in my review, why Home Haunt resonates so well with me is because growing up, my stepdad and we would put on a haunted house in the neighborhood. And then we'd have my friends come over and my sisters. We would all participate, and we would that was like the thing. Like it became like even before Facebook and Instagram really took off. Word got around the neighborhood. Like every year, we were the house to come visit. We still put out candy like everybody else, and it wasn't like a huge house. It wasn't like Halloween Horror Nights Universal level production, but people lined up. And they came out, and so but also that also peaked when I was also a teenager, and I couldn't relate to the kid in the short because I could because I was also a teenager once, but like I was so jazzed about doing this when I was growing up. I buying the black lights and the black tarp to put everything everywhere and the whole nine, and it had a huge payoff with it was such a silly MacGuffin, this record,
just the record, with the incantation.
That was completely cheesy, like full stop. But I think I also wrote this in my review. Like elevated horror has no place here. This is not about the trauma of your brother dying in a car crash when you're 12. And no. This is blood and guts and shit your pants scares, and this is what I wanted to see. And so I give latitude to some of those cheesy plot devices because it's fun, and it's gonna be over in 10 minutes anyway. It's like kind of like riding a ride, and so that's why House Haunt or Home Haunt or whatever it's called spoke to me the best. So is that definitely a personal thing?
Yeah, that's cool. Did your dad make you be the Igor character?
No, what we would do, we would paint our faces, and he built a fake wall in between like the route of the driveway, up to the sidewalk, because the sidewalk that led to the front door was my mom with the candy bowl. But you had to earn it. You couldn't just walk up from the street, unless you're like little kids could. But like if you're like a teenager or tween, you had to like work for the candy. So he built a false wall right in the middle and have holes cut out. And my friends and I would sit there and we would go through and we'd reach out and jump at people, and we would paint our faces. And we have like and we paint with certain paint that gave off big colors in black light, because the whole thing was drowned in black light. And we had music and we have like strobes and like it was wild. So he never gave me the honor of being Igor. So a dream never fulfilled, I guess.
Christopher Golden wrote a book about that, came out a few years ago, called All Hallows. And it was, the whole premise was a family that did the whole haunted house, and then, evil shit happens and terrorizes and kills everybody.
That sounds amazing.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I gotta look into that.
Yeah, All Hallows. Yeah, it came out 2-3 years ago, tops.
I will say, even though that wasn't Home Haunt wasn't my favorite, definitely had the best kill in the entire movie, which is the last one with the witch going straight through that little kid.
Oh. That was great.
Yeah, I was like, if the movie had a lot more of that, I think
that was hardcore.
That would elevate it. I did not expect that coming.
Right.
Neither did that kid, man.
I had no idea.
Not ready. Not prepared.
I'm glad you brought up Terrifier earlier, because I feel like not to say that kids have not been killed in horror films before. I think my most scarring memory as a kid is watching the Blob remake. And there's the scene where the Kevin Dillon and the girl, they meet her little brother at the movie theater, and they try to rescue him and his friends, and one of his friends gets killed by the Blob, and I was like, oh my god, I didn't know kids could die in these things. And I'm so glad that that's kind of coming back thanks to films like this. It's great. And also shout out to Good Boy, which is turning the horror trope.
Totally.
Dogs that you want to kill dogs in all these horror movies.
Indy is a good boy.
Yeah.
Indie films won't be bound. No, sir. That's good.
All right. Those were all really the questions that I had. I think we dived into a lot of this. So I guess I just want to open the floor up to any of you guys. Is there anything else that you want to say about this movie? Any reason that something we may have spoken about might have changed your mind, or is there anything else you want to just get out of your system about something that you cannot stand about the movie?
Was there anything, like, to me, the first one, the images of the girls kind of getting the weird milk fat baby cheeks thing, that was like the most unsettling, couldn't get out of my mind thing from all these. Did anybody have an image or something like that stuck with them?
I love the tentacles that came out of the dying phantasm can and wrapped around the one test subject's face.
That's the one thing I wanted to speak on before we wrapped up, Dempsey, was the diet phantasma like through narrative. Because every VHS has, I think every VHS entry has like the through line main narrative interspersed with the segments, but this one was probably the most fun. And because I think it stuck the landing at the end, and because it tied it back to Halloween, because the whole time you're like, it's just like a B movie,
yes,
a B movie kind of like you said, Reanimator, and just like grindhouse schlock, and I like how each time we came back to it after each segment was over, the ante was upped with like with the devastation and the kills and the carnage, and nobody was safe. The little kid gets possessed, and I thought it was just a great. And I like the little bar at the bottom for internal use only.
Yeah.
I thought that would have been
cool.
great. That would have been a great title for the segment too, for internal use only. But Dying Phantasma also works. And now I want to. I mean, that's a great marketing gimmick too. Like, go rent VHS. Who rents anymore? But go rent VHS Halloween. Get a free can of Diet Phantasma. I want to know what it tastes like now. Product placement, baby.
That'd be cool to have on the shelf.
To your point, that literally Blumhouse is doing that with Fanta. They have all their killers on cans of Fanta now. I saw it the other day. Chucky.
Oh, did they?
Not Chucky.
Cool.
Not Chucky. Freddy Fazbear, The Grabber, Mike Myers.
All their flagship.
all their Blumhouse people.
Yeah.
So it is interesting. And to your point, I agree that it absolutely stuck. Like when the movie ended after Home Haunt, I was definitely disappointed.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's it. But then when you see them bring it back and actually explain what Diane Phantasma is, because up until that point, we don't know. I thought it was some sort of alien substance or something, but then they say it's made of pure, ectoplasm or whatever, or whatever the hell out of ghosts. Then it's kind of like, oh, I felt a little bit more satisfied. So I do think that that's important to note, that it does kind of, it helps the film kind of end on a high note, because I feel like
closure,
yeah,
full circle, yeah.
Other than that, it might not. Let me also ask you this. I was going to ask it, but because Joe and Josh haven't seen the other films, I don't know if they can fully answer this. But maybe you, John, do you think this franchise is sustainable? Like, how many more of these realistically do you think they can make, but not only make, but make coherently? Like, obviously you can have an infinite amount of stories and horror stories to tell, but like, they obviously stopped doing the through storylines, right? They still have them, but they make less sense, as I pointed out earlier, to the overarching plot. So where else do you think they can go after this?
So I'll answer that first part first. So like, unlike from the 80s, which had like Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th is what I meant, and then like the 2000s had the Saw franchise, where they were basically pumping out one a year. That was like the general rhythm was pretty consistent. VHS has followed that suit. The difference, I feel, is it is not quite the same thing as a signature flagship franchise with like simple iconography, like a Jason or a Jigsaw or somebody. This is different because it is it is an open forum for new directors to come in, or up and coming directors to come in and put their sample out, and like basically provide a quick sizzle reel of what they can do. And because if you look back at the whole canon of VHS as a franchise, there's some stories that kind of are similar, or they overlap. They kind of retread some things, which is fine, but they've been very separated in the birth of the whole franchise. And the difference is why I think this franchise is sustainable is because not only does it have new voices every year coming in with new things to say, even if we heard shades of the same thing before, it's kind of like how I would equate it to going to Universal Studios Halloween Horror Nights, whereas every year I know what it is. It's 10 haunted houses, and you go and you stay in line, you go do your damn thing, but each year it's different. And because there's quick vignettes, they're quick 10, 15-minute shorts that you can breeze by, it is like getting on a ride, having your fun, getting off and moving on. And and that is legacy. That's like the expectation is just be entertaining enough for 10 to 15 minutes, which any short should really strive to be. And you don't have to live up to some other past template like you would in a Friday the 13th or a Scream or something that's got like a set parameters. If that makes sense. So what was the second part of your question?
No, where do you think they can go next? Or you have any idea? If you could pitch one, what do you think?
I mean, VHS Easter. Let's go, man. What are we waiting on? The resurrection. Yeah, the resurrection, and there's the bunny and fertility and like the lots of sex and lots of blood. Like, I'm kidding, but I it could go anywhere. They could even be more granular and say VHS vampires, just do 5 vampire stories if they want. And this move each year is a new bag of tricks. I think there is no ceiling for this franchise. I do think there should be like good effort put in. I don't want just crap strung together to meet a deadline, but I think there's nowhere to go but up. Really, it's just great.
Yeah, I think horror lends itself to these kinds of anthologies. I was looking up ones from the 80s that I really like Creepshow, Twilight Zone, the movie, Cat's Eye, Tales from the Dark Side. These were all fun. Like John said, get different voices in there. If you keep bringing in new people, and it'd probably be fun to have a combination of new and emerging people. So get some classic directors in and some brand new people in. Just churn them out once a year. Why the fuck not? A couple of them will always be good, and like this, a couple of them will be forgettable.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Josh. To mix it up between both vet and up and coming. But I mean, the found footage subgenre really is just like any subgenre, that's out there. It can totally, keep on going as long as there is imagination behind it. I think, when we look at some of those 80s horror film franchises, the Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, that they got tired just because it was a quick money grab for the studio. They knew they could make a relatively cheap horror movie, get it out there. It would do well in the theater. It would do better on VHS, and then they could, get their money and do the next one. But it's when creators started coming in and wanting to do more with the genre that the studio and the producers had pushback, and as a result, a lot of those died out. But I think as long as you do have that kismet, with the creative groups that want to put out imaginative work, this is a franchise that can keep on going, and I really hope that it does.
I think the only to better answer the question, Dempsey, now that I've thought about it for a couple seconds, I think the only big obstacle that this franchise has is the VHS found footage kind of pocket it sits in. And the reason why is because even in this one, which I liked all the stories, even like the really good one, the As Above, So Below,
Supra.
yeah. And I love that story, but like even then it was like swapping back between like
iPhone cam and
iPhone and body
cams.
cam.
Yeah.
And so they have to get creative, and like it could be considered a narrative cheat. But like as long as the stories suspend your disbelief, I think they can. That's why they've been able to get away with it. Because like who's watching this for the logic, right? But I think that's like the biggest thing that it has to like just consider as its main obstacle.
I mean, to that note, how many cell phone videos do we watch a day throughout the various social media that we look at? We're looking at millions of these things.
But I mean, I hear you, but also there's a difference between like a reel and a TikTok versus a whole short. But again, like we have become like conditioned to look stuff on this this rectangle, the vertical rectangle. And I think maybe Dempsey, that's where they go next, is VHS Instagram or some shit.
iPhone, yeah. VHS iPhone.
Which I think would be a really hooky kind of idea. In fact, hey Shutter, if you're listening, guys.
What's crazy that you said that? I didn't even realize that. Because I already kind of suspend my disbelief for these movies that I just ate it up automatically, but I didn't even think that. Yeah,
same.
Very clearly show their phones, and it is like none of that story takes place on VHS. However, the brilliance of the whole VHS conceit kind of lucked out with the fact that people are really into like old age media, like cassette tapes coming back, vinyl. Like it's not that hard to see something like VHS tapes also coming back and that being incorporated. So in a way, they, like I said, they lucked out with this kind of with the title, but also it'll definitely, I don't see the format ever dying as a result of that either.
Mm-hmm.
That was a very good point. Also, one other thing I want to mention, Josh asked earlier if there was like a specific creature or something that like stood out. As I did say, I think in the fun size short, that whatever those creatures were that like cut off his hand, candy popped out. I think it'd be interesting if we got a little bit more of that. But the reason why Coochie Coochie Coo didn't really faze me, or even something like Diet Phantasma also, as great as it was reminiscent of other they've been inside of labs before. We've seen things go wrong in labs before in these kind of movies. And the actual first short film of VHS Beyond is also very reminiscent of Coochie Coochie Coo, except it's built more like a first-person shooter video game.
Yes, that was awesome.
That is awesome, and it's the same kind of camera work and everything. Basically, all these people, they go, these like cops or whatever, this agency busts into a house to try to catch somebody, and then they run into these creatures. And it's the same thing with the girls running into the creature and then trying to run away. And so you're in the dark and you don't know what's behind every corner. So I found that to be a very interesting parallel. But like I said, I still ate it up because it's different enough that, it's enjoyable. So that, once again, if you watch all of them, and this is perfect. It's early enough in spooky season that you can. I think you guys will be thoroughly surprised at how well or how many gems there are in this franchise.
I do recommend, if you want to take recommendations, the very first VHS Beyond, which just came out last year, and VHS 85 I would begin with those three. And I think they're a good representation of the best of this franchise.
Agreed. I agree.
VHS Viral, I mean, enter at your own risk. It's fine, but it's definitely the weakest of the bunch, I would say.
And it's made differently too. It literally feels like you're watching like super produced digital movie from the very beginning. Like there's none of the grain from. I don't even know if there is like an actual movie that takes place in like the VHS era. I don't even care to remember if there is. I'm sorry. I'm throwing too much shade at that movie, but definitely check them out. Definitely check them out. With that, if we have nothing else to say about the movies or anything else, I would love to revisit everybody's opinion, starting with John.
Yeah. So I think VHS Halloween is another solid entry into a very appropriate spooky season franchise that really gets people revved up for the season. Pretty fun stories, pretty fun through line narrative, and again, VHS continues to show it's a great showcase for up and coming directors to put their voices out. Even if they make some mistakes, let them make some mistakes. But it's good to get some fresh meat out there, if you will. And VHS continues to be that showcase. VHS Halloween delivered once again.
So still a full
popcorn. So sorry, yeah, full popcorn for me. Yep.
Good man. Joe, what did your mind change?
No, not at all. I'm still giving it a full popcorn. I think there is, the caveat that we definitely talked about here, that this is really all for fun. It's all for fun and games. It's all for tricks and treats. There are different flavors that you get in the grab bag of VHS Halloween, and some of them are a delight, and some of them are a chocolate-covered phallus. I'll leave it at that.
Agreed.
Heyo.
And Josh.
Yeah, I ate a full popcorn watching this, but I'm giving it a half popcorn still. I like the conceit, I like the premise, I like the structure of it, and I'd watch more of these.
Hell yeah.
I started off like halfway between half and positive, but for the most part, I'm more positive about this movie. I'll give it a full popcorn, but not all the way, not topped up. Okay, it's like kind of when you go for a refill, and the clerk doesn't fill it all the way to the top. It just is like,
fuck that guy.
Enough kernels beyond the surface. Yeah, f you, man. But yeah, it's definitely a solid watch. As everybody else said, it's a great way to kick off spooky season. And if you want, wait until Halloween night to watch it. I don't care what you do, but at the very least, watch it. And with that being said, a little bit of a shorter episode today, but I don't think anybody's complaining about that. It leaves us with more time to watch movies. And with all that being said, I just want to thank you all so much for listening to the Cinefied Podcast. You can find more of our episodes as well as all of our written reviews on Cinefied.com. That is Cinefied.com. We're the one and only Cinefied out there, just in case you're wondering. You can especially read John's entire review for this particular film and reviews for myself, Joe, and Josh. You can follow us on Letterboxd too, as well as all major social media platforms to stay up to date with our reviews. Now, pop some popcorn, grab a drink, and remember to stay Cinefied. Until next time, guys. Thank you.